The Galactic Council Chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian. Its curved walls rising toward a dome, it displayed the live feeds of 10,000 member worlds. Representatives from 400 species filled the tiered seating, their forms ranging from crystalline giants to beings of pure electromagnetic radiation. At the center of this vast space, standing on a platform barely large enough for 2 humans, Ambassador David Reyes felt very small indeed. Humanity had been part of galactic civilization for exactly 19 years. In that time, they had learned to navigate trade routes, establish colonies, and avoid the political landmines that came with being the newest species in a community millions of years old. They had also learned to keep their heads down and their ambitions modest until today. High Arbiter Voss, a being whose body seemed woven from living shadow, leaned forward from the central podium. When he spoke, his voice resonated through specialized translators that made every word feel like a physical weight, pressing against the chest. The human delegation will explain why they have requested emergency session before this body. David swallowed hard. Beside him, a young woman in worn mechanic coveralls stood with her arms crossed, looking completely unconcerned by the thousands of alien eyes fixed upon her. Her name was Maya Torres, and 3 days ago, she had done something that threatened to destabilize galactic politics for the next century. Honored Arbiter, David began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. We come before this council to register a formal claim under the salvage accords of the Third Era, specifically Article 7, which governs the recovery of pre-civilization artifacts. A ripple of murmured conversation passed through the chamber. The salvage accords were ancient law, rarely invoked and almost never by species as young as humanity. State the nature of your claim, Voss commanded. David glanced at Maya, who gave him a slight nod. This was the moment they had prepared for, the moment that would either elevate humanity to major player status or get them expelled from civilized space. 3 standard weeks ago, one of our citizens located and established contact with a Forerunner vessel, the ship known in ancient records as the Wanderer. We are claiming salvage rights. The chamber exploded into chaos. The Forerunners were legend. They had vanished from the galaxy 70,000 years before any current species achieved spaceflight, leaving behind technology so advanced it might as well have been magic. Finding a Forerunner artifact was rare. Finding an intact ship was unheard of. Finding one with an active AI core was supposed to be impossible. Order. Voss's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The human delegation will provide evidence of this claim. Maya stepped forward, pulling a small device from her pocket. She placed it on the platform floor and activated it. A holographic projection loomed upward, showing a ship that made the assembled representatives fall silent. The Wanderer was not just large. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. All flowing lines and impossible geometry, covered in symbols that seemed to shift when not directly observed. At 30 kilometers long, it dwarfed most space stations. Its hull glowed with a soft inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. I found it, Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. Took me 6 years of following dead leads and coded messages hidden in places nobody thought to look. The Forerunners left breadcrumbs for someone to find, and I was stubborn enough to track them down. A massive being resembling a spider made of metal rose from the collective merchant seats. This is clearly fabrication. No primitive could decode Forerunner encryption. Our own analysts have failed for millennia. Maya turned to face the speaker with an expression that David recognized as dangerous. Your analysts were looking for complex mathematical patterns because that is how your species thinks. The Forerunners were smarter than that. They knew any advanced civilization would approach the problem the same way. So they hid their clues in simple things. Children's games, folk songs, Random number sequences that only make sense if you are not trying to find sense in them. Preposterous, the merchant representative declared. And yet here we are. Maya gestured at the hologram. The ship's eye has been dormant for 70,000 years, waiting for someone who fits specific criteria. Young species, adaptable thinking, pattern recognition based on intuition rather than pure logic. She smiled coldly. Humans qualified. Your people did not. The chamber erupted again, this time with anger. David saw military representatives from a dozen species reaching for communication devices, probably ordering ships to converge on the Wanderer's location. This was exactly what they had feared. Voss raised one shadowy limb, and silence fell immediately. The human female will explain how she established this supposed contact with the vessel's AI. Maya's expression softened slightly. 3 months ago, I was working as a mechanic on Kef Station, the big auction house in the neutral zone. I had tracked the Wanderer's location, but needed credits to reach it. So I took a job repairing ships, keeping my head down, pretending to be just another salvager. She paused, and David saw something flicker across her face. Memory, perhaps. Or wonder. I found the ship floating in dead space between two galaxies. No power signatures, no emissions, nothing to indicate it was anything other than debris. But when I touched the hull, I felt something. A presence reaching out. The AI had been sleeping, but it recognized me somehow. It woke up. And what did this AI communicate? Voss asked. A warning, Maya said quietly. The Forerunners did not just disappear. They were destroyed by something they called the Silence, an enemy that consumed entire civilizations. They hid the Wanderer and ships like it, loaded with their knowledge and technology, waiting for species young enough to fight back. Species that had not yet developed the weaknesses the Silence exploited. The chamber had gone very still. The Silence is still out there, Maya continued. Dormant, but not dead. And the Forerunners believed that if any species could stop it, it would be one like humanity, new, unpredictable, not yet set in patterns the Silence could anticipate. David watched the representatives process this information. He saw fear on some faces, disbelief on others, and on a troubling number, naked greed. The Wanderer represented power beyond imagination. Every faction in the galaxy would want to control it. This council does not recognize claims based on unverified alien communication, declared a Vraxian admiral from the military bloc. The vessel should be placed under council protection until proper analysis can be conducted. By which you mean Vraxian protection, David said, surprised by the steel in his own voice. And Vraxian analysis. And eventually Vraxian control. The admiral's scales rippled with anger. You dare accuse the Vraxian Empire of impropriety? I dare state the obvious. Every major power in this chamber wants the Wanderer. If we surrender our claim, we will never see that ship again, and neither will you. It will disappear into someone's military research program, and the technology will be used for war rather than defense. David stepped to the edge of the platform, addressing the full assembly. Humanity is not asking for exclusive control. We are proposing a partnership. The Wanderer's AI has bonded with Maya. It will only fully activate for her. But its knowledge, its technology, its warnings about the Silence, those we are willing to share. With everyone. In exchange for what? Voss asked. Recognition. Full membership in the council with voting rights. And a seat at the table when decisions are made about how to prepare for the threat the Forerunners warned us about. The silence stretched for 10 heartbeats. Then Voss spoke. The council will deliberate. The human delegation will remain available for questioning. This session is suspended. As the representatives began filing out, David felt Maya grip his arm. That went better than expected, she murmured. We are still alive, David agreed. But this is just the beginning. Every faction is going to make a move on that ship. We need to get back to the Wanderer before someone decides that killing us is easier than negotiating. Maya's grip tightened. Then we had better move fast. Because the AI showed me something else. Something I did not mention in there. What? Her eyes were haunted. The Wanderer is not alone. There are others, hidden across the galaxy, waiting to be activated. And the signal I sent. When I bonded with the A, I just woke them all up. The transport ship carrying David and Maya had barely cleared the Council Station when the first attack came. 3 Vraxian interceptors dropped out of hyperspace directly in their path, weapons already charging. David threw himself into the pilot's seat while Maya scrambled for the defensive systems, her hands moving with the practiced speed of someone who had spent years keeping old ships alive. They are not even pretending to be subtle, she muttered, rerouting power to the shields. I thought we would have at least an hour before someone tried to kill us. The Vraxians have never been patient. David pushed the transport into a diving roll, narrowly avoiding a burst of plasma fire. Can you reach the Wanderer? Tell it we need help? Maya closed her eyes, focusing on the strange connection that had formed between her mind and the ancient AI. The bond was still new, still uncertain, like learning to use a limb she had never known she possessed. But she felt the Wanderer respond, a warm presence, brushing against her consciousness from across the light years. It knows we are in trouble, she said, but it is too far away to help directly. We need to survive on our own. A second volley of weapons fire struck their shields, and the transport shuddered violently. Warning lights began flashing across the console. That is going to be difficult, David said grimly. These interceptors are military grade. Our transport has shields meant to stop asteroids, not plasma cannons. Maya opened a channel to the lead Vraxian ship. This is Maya Torres, registered salvager under Council authority. You are attacking a diplomatic vessel. Stand down immediately. The response came in a voice cold with contempt. You are no diplomat. You are a thief who stumbled onto something far beyond your primitive species. Surrender the ship and provide the location of the Forerunner vessel. You will be treated fairly. Fairly meaning what? Memory wipe and exile? That would be the merciful option. David glanced at Maya. Any chance of talking our way out of this? None. She was already pulling up star charts, looking for escape routes. But I know something they do not. There is an old jump point 300 kilometers from here. Pre-war navigation beacon that most species have forgotten about. If we can reach it, we can jump to coordinates they cannot predict. How do you know about a forgotten jump point? Maya smiled tightly. The Wanderer showed me things. Old maps, old routes, places the Forerunners used before the silence came. Trust me, the transport took another hit, and this time the shields flickered dangerously. David pushed the engines to maximum, feeling the old ship groan under the strain. They were not going to survive many more attacks. Then something unexpected happened. A new ship dropped out of hyperspace between them and the Vraxians. It was small, barely larger than the interceptors, but its design was unlike anything David had ever seen. Angular, almost aggressive, covered in glyphs that seemed to glow with inner fire. What is that? He breathed. Maya stared at the newcomer with wide eyes. That is impossible. That is a Forerunner scout ship. One of the ones I told you about, the hidden fleet. It must have activated when I bonded with the Wanderer. The scout ship positioned itself between the transport and the Vraxians. Its weapon systems coming online with a hum that David could feel through the hull of his own vessel. The Vraxian interceptors hesitated, their aggressive posture suddenly uncertain. A message broadcast on all frequencies. in a voice that was clearly artificial, but somehow ancient. Hostile vessels will withdraw immediately. This unit is designated to protect the operator until she reaches the primary vessel. Interference will result in defensive action. One of the Vraxian pilots made a mistake. Perhaps he did not believe the threat. Perhaps he thought ancient technology could not match modern weapons. He fired at the scout ship. What happened next took less than 2 seconds. The scout ship moved with impossible speed, evading the plasma burst and returning fire with a beam of focused energy that punched through the interceptor's shields like they did not exist. The Vraxian vessel did not explode. It simply stopped, all systems dead, drifting in space like a discarded toy. The other 2 interceptors fled immediately, jumping to hyperspace without even attempting to retrieve their disabled companion. David let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. I think I love that ship. Maya was not celebrating. Her face had gone pale, her connection to the Wanderer flooding her with information she struggled to process. David, we have a bigger problem. The Wanderer just showed me something. The signal I sent when we bonded, the one that activated the hidden fleet, it did not just reach our ships. What do you mean? The Forerunners hid their technology using specific frequencies, specific codes. When I activated the Wanderer, it broadcast on those frequencies. Anyone monitoring for those signals would have detected it. Who would be monitoring for Forerunner signals? Maya's hands were shaking. The Wanderer does not know for certain. But the Forerunners were not just hiding from random enemies. They were hiding from something specific, something that hunted them across the galaxy for thousands of years, something that learned to track their technology. David felt cold understanding wash over him. The silence. If they are still out there, if they are still listening, then they know the Forerunners left something behind. They know someone activated it, and they will come looking. The scout ship moved closer to their transport, its ancient hull gleaming in the starlight. Through the connection, Maya could feel its simple AI, loyal and patient, waiting for instructions. It had protected the operator as programmed. Now it was ready for the next command. We need to get to the Wanderer, Maya said. Now, before anyone else reaches it. The jump point you mentioned? Yes, the scout ship can guide us. But David, you need to understand something. The Wanderer is not just a ship. It is a key. The Forerunners built a network of installations across the galaxy. Weapons caches, research stations, defensive platforms. All of them hidden, all of them dormant. The Wanderer can activate them. That sounds like exactly what we need if the silence is coming. It is also exactly what every other faction wants. The power to control Forerunner technology, to decide who gets weapons and who gets nothing. That is why the council session was so chaotic. That is why the Vraxians attacked us. And that is why we cannot trust anyone. The transport began moving toward the coordinates Maya provided, the scout ship falling into formation alongside them. Through the viewport, David could see the faint shimmer of the ancient jump point, a piece of Forerunner infrastructure that had survived 70,000 years of abandonment. The council will declare us criminals for fleeing, he said. They were going to declare us criminals anyway. The only difference is now we have a head start. Maya turned to face him, her expression resolute. I did not ask for this, David. I just wanted to find the ship, prove that humans could do what the older species could not. I did not know it would turn into this. Neither did I, but here we are. The jump point activated as they approached. Ancient systems recognizing the scout ship's codes and opening a pathway through folded space. Maya felt the Wanderer's presence grow stronger as the distance between them shrank, the bond pulling her forward like a compass needle toward magnetic north. There is something else I need to tell you, she said as the transport prepared to jump. The Wanderer's AI, it has been waiting 70,000 years for someone like me. It is lonely. And it is scared. The Forerunners programmed it with their final hopes, their desperate plan to save something from the silence. It believes in that mission. It believes in me. That is a lot of pressure. Yes, but it also means I have an advantage nobody else has. The Wanderer will not fully activate for anyone else. I will not share its secrets with anyone else. Whatever happens next, I am the key to everything. The transport jumped, reality bending around them as they crossed light years and seconds. When they emerged, they were in empty space far from any inhabited system, with nothing visible in any direction, nothing except the Wanderer. The ship hung before them like a sleeping giant, its 30 kilometers of impossible architecture dwarfing their transport completely. Even dormant, it radiated power, beauty, purpose. Maya felt tears on her cheeks without understanding why. Home, she whispered Dot, and somewhere in the ancient ship's depths, a consciousness that had waited since before humanity existed stirred. Reaching out to welcome her Dot, Maya stood in the heart of the Wanderer. Surrounded by technology, they predated human civilization by 60,000 years. The chamber was vast, cathedral-like, its walls covered in flowing patterns that seemed to breathe with inner light. At the center, suspended in a framework of crystallized energy, floated a sphere of perfect darkness that somehow radiated warmth. The AI core, the mind of the ship, the consciousness that had called to her across the stars. "Are you sure about this?" David asked. He stood near the entrance with the small team of humans they had gathered, survivors and volunteers who had chosen to join them rather than return to council space. The medical scans show massive neural restructuring. This bonding process could change who you are. Maya approached the core slowly. I have been changing since I first touched this ship. The question is not whether I do this, but whether I do it on my terms or wait for someone else to force the issue. The core pulsed, and she felt its attention focus on her completely. It did not speak in words, not exactly. It communicated in impressions, memories, emotions, compressed into packets of meaning that unfolded in her mind like flowers blooming not welcome. Chosen? Ready? Yes, she said aloud, for David's benefit. I am ready. She reached out and touched the core. The universe exploded. Maya fell through 70,000 years of history in the space of a heartbeat. She saw the Forerunners at their height, their civilization spanning galaxies, their technology reshaping reality itself. She felt their joy in creation, their pride in what they had built, their certainty that nothing could threaten them. Then she saw the silence come out. It started as whispers. Strange signals from the void between galaxies, patterns that did not match any known physics. The Forerunners investigated, curious, confident in their ability to understand anything. They sent ships into the darkness. The ships did not return, but something else did. Maya watched civilizations fall, world after world consumed, not destroyed but changed, converted into something alien and terrible. The silence did not conquer through force. It spread like a disease, infecting matter and energy and thought, transforming everything it touched into extensions of itself. The Forerunners fought for 10,000 years and lost ground every day. And in their final years, desperate and dying, they built ships like the Wanderer, loaded them with everything they knew, hid them in places the silence could not easily find, programmed them to wait for species young enough, different enough, to possibly succeed where the Forerunners had failed. Maya came back to herself gasping for air, her legs giving out beneath her. David caught her before she hit the floor, his face tight with worry. Maya! Can you hear me? I hear you. Her voice was strange in her own ears, resonant with harmonics it had not possessed before. I hear everything. The chamber had changed. Lights blazed from every surface, systems coming online throughout the ship. Through her new connection, Maya could feel the Wanderer awakening around her, its massive systems stirring to life after millennia of sleep. "The bonding worked," she said. "I am the operator now. The ship recognizes me. What did you see?" Maya closed her eyes, organizing the flood of information still cascading through her mind. Everything. The Forerunners, the war, the silence. They left me their memories, David, their fears and hopes and final desperate plans. They believed that young species like humanity might succeed because we have not, yet calcified into patterns the silence can predict. We are chaos. We are random. We are the opposite of what they were. Is that a good thing? It is the only thing that might save us. Maya stood, steadier now, and walked to a console that rose from the floor at her approach. The Wanderer has databases containing everything the Forerunners learned about the silence. Weapons that worked, briefly. Strategies that bought time. And most importantly, the locations of other hidden installations across the galaxy. David's eyes widened. How many? 47 confirmed. Maybe more. Maya pulled up a star map, marking each location with a glowing point. Research stations, weapons caches, automated factories, defensive platforms. The Forerunners scattered their legacy across 100,000 light-years, hoping someone would eventually claim it. And the signal you sent when you first bonded woke them up. They are activating now, responding to the Wanderer's call. Anyone with the right sensors will be able to detect them. Maya's expression darkened, which means we are in a race. The Council knows something is happening. The Vraxians definitely know, after we humiliated their interceptors. And there are other factions, older ones, who have been waiting for exactly this moment. As if to emphasize her point, the Wanderer's sensors detected multiple hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. Ships were arriving, dozens of them, from at least 6 different factions. "They found us already," David said. "They followed our jump trail." It was inevitable. Maya studied the sensor data, her new connection to the ship, allowing her to process information far faster than before. Council peacekeepers, Vraxian military, merchant collective vessels, and some I do not recognize. They are all keeping their distance, probably trying to figure out what the Wanderer is capable of. A communication request arrived, flagged as priority from the Council High Arbiter's office. Maya opened the channel, and Voss's shadowy form appeared on the display. "Maya Torres, you have fled Council custody, engaged in combat with member species, and activated Forerunner technology without authorization. These are serious charges. With respect, High Arbiter, I did not flee custody. I was attacked by Vraxian interceptors the moment I left your station, and the Forerunner technology activated itself. It has been waiting 70,000 years for someone to complete the bonding process. It was not going to wait any longer." Voss paused, processing this. "Regardless, you have created a crisis. Every major faction is demanding access to the Wanderer. Several have threatened military action if their demands are not met." "Then tell them this," Maya said, feeling the Wanderer's power humming through her connection. "The ship has bonded with me. It will not respond to anyone else. If they attack, I will defend myself with weapons that make their fleets look like children's toys. But if they are willing to negotiate, to share in the Foreigner's legacy rather than fight over it, then I am willing to talk." "You speak as if you have authority to make such offers." "I do. The Wanderer has given me its trust. Its knowledge, its weapons, its entire purpose now flows through me. I am not claiming this power for humanity alone, High Arbiter. I am claiming it so that no single faction can monopolize it." Another pause. "There are those who will not accept this. I know. Let them come." Maya felt something stir in the ship's weapon systems, vast energies waiting to be unleashed. but warned them what happened to the Forerunners. They were the most advanced civilization the galaxy has ever known, and the silence destroyed them anyway. Squabbling over their scraps while ignoring the danger they warned us about would be the height of stupidity. The channel closed. Through the sensors, Maya watched the assembled fleets maintain their positions, none willing to make the first aggressive move. The standoff could last hours or days, but eventually someone would get impatient. What now? David asked. Maya turned to face the team of humans who had followed her into the unknown. Engineers, pilots, soldiers, scientists, people who had believed in our mission when no one else did. They had given up their homes, their safety, everything, to be here. Now we prove that the Forerunners were right to choose us, she said. The galaxy thinks humanity is too young, too primitive, too chaotic to be trusted with this power. We are going to show them that those are exactly the qualities that might save everyone. She began pulling up data on the nearest Forerunner installation, a weapons cache hidden in an asteroid field 3 days away. It was the first step in claiming the legacy the Forerunners had left behind. But even as she planned, Maya felt something else through her connection to the ship. A distant presence, vast and cold, stirring in the darkness between galaxies. The silence was not yet awake, but it was no longer fully asleep. Time was running out, and humanity's trial had only just begun. The transmission came from Earth without warning, cutting through all other communications with emergency priority codes that Maya had never seen before. When the face appeared on the Wanderer's display, she felt her blood turn to ice. Professor Alan Drake looked exactly as she remembered him from 6 years ago, before the accident that supposedly killed him. Gray hair, sharp eyes, the patient expression of a man who always knew more than he revealed. He had been her mentor, her teacher, the one who first showed her how to decode alien languages and track ancient artifacts, the man who had shaped everything she became. "Hello, Maya," he said calmly. "You have done remarkably well. Better than I expected, actually. But I am afraid you have made some mistakes that need to be corrected." Maya felt David move closer behind her, felt the tension radiating from her crew. "You are supposed to be dead. The accident on Kepler system, the hull breach that killed everyone aboard your ship. A necessary fiction. I needed to disappear, to work without council oversight, to prepare for this exact moment." Drake smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. "You were always my best student, Maya. I trained you from the beginning, fed you clues that would lead you to the Wanderer, shaped your thinking so you would approach the puzzle correctly. Everything you have accomplished, I made possible." The words hit like physical blows. Maya had spent 6 years believing her discoveries were her own, that she had earned her place through skill and determination. Learning it was all manipulation, all part of someone else's plan, made her want to scream. "What do you want?" she asked, keeping her voice steady through sheer force of will. "I want you to bring the Wanderer to coordinates I am sending now, alone. There is an organization I work with, much older than the Council, much more prepared for what is coming. We call ourselves the Eternal Watch. We have been waiting for the Forerunner's return for 4,000 years. And if I refuse?" Drake's expression did not change. "Then I will be forced to demonstrate how serious we are." The display shifted to show Earth, specifically, to show 7 locations highlighted in red, each one positioned over a major population center: Beijing, London, Mumbai, New York, Tokyo, Cairo, Sydney. "We have placed devices in each of these cities," Drake continued. "Not weapons, exactly. Something more subtle. Quantum disruptors that will scramble the neural patterns of every human within 500 kilometers. Not death, but complete personality erasure. Billions of people reduced to empty shells." Maya felt the Wanderer respond to her spike of horror and rage, weapon systems activating automatically. But Drake raised a hand. Before you do anything rash, understand that those devices are shielded against Forerunner technology. We have had 4,000 years to prepare for exactly this scenario. If you attack us, if you try to disable the devices remotely, if you do anything except follow my instructions, the devices will activate." "You are insane," David said. "You would destroy your own species to get what you want?" "I would do whatever is necessary to ensure the survival of intelligent life in this galaxy," Drake replied. "The silence is real, Ambassador. It is coming. And the Council, with its endless debates and faction squabbling, will doom everyone through paralysis and cowardice. The Eternal Watch exists to make the hard choices that others cannot." Maya forced herself to think through the fear and anger clouding her mind. The Wanderer was showing her possibilities, strategies, but none of them guaranteed she could save those cities. Drake had planned too well, anticipated too much, but he had also made assumptions. Assumptions about how Maya would react. Assumptions about what the Wanderer could do. "You trained me," she said slowly. "You know how I think, what I will do in any given situation. That is your advantage, yes. But you do not know the ship. Not really. You know what the Forerunners recorded, what the Eternal Watch has pieced together over millennia. You do not know what the Wanderer has become during 70,000 years alone, what it has learned, how it has changed." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Drake's face. "What are you suggesting?" Maya reached out through her bond, diving deep into the ship's systems, searching for something, anything that might give her an edge. And she found it. A subroutine buried in the navigation protocols. A capability the Forerunners had developed in their final desperate years, but never had the chance to use. The Forerunners created the Wanderer to preserve their knowledge, she said. But they also created it to protect the galaxy from threats like the Silence. They gave it weapons, defenses, and one other thing, the ability to reach across space and touch specific points without physically traveling there. Drake's eyes narrowed. Impossible. That would require energy expenditure beyond anything the ship could sustain. For a full weapons strike, yes. But for something smaller? Maya smiled. The Forerunners designed this ship to interface with other Forerunner technology. Your devices may be shielded against attack, but they are built on foundations that include Forerunner components. I can feel them, and I can turn them off. She was bluffing. Partially, the capability existed, but she had no idea if it would work against devices she had never seen, built by an organization she knew nothing about. But Drake did not know that. You are risking billions of lives on a gamble, he said. No, I'm trusting that the Forerunners were smarter than you. They hid the Wanderer for 70,000 years, waiting for the right person to find it. They gave that person tools to face exactly these kinds of threats. You think you prepared for everything, but you prepared for what you understood. And you do not understand this ship. Maya reached deeper into the connection, pulling power from the Wanderer's vast reserves, focusing it through systems she barely comprehended. She felt the ship straining, ancient circuits lighting up for the first time in millennia, and across the galaxy, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary star, 7 quantum disruptors flickered and died. Drake stared at her in genuine shock. That should not have been possible. The Forerunners were fighting something that consumed entire civilizations. They built tools for situations more desperate than yours. Maya felt exhaustion dragging at her, the effort of reaching across light years, having taken more from her than she expected. Your leverage is gone, Professor. Now we can have an actual conversation. You think this changes anything? The Eternal Watch has resources beyond those devices. We have ships, agents, allies who believe as we do. We will not stop simply because one plan failed. Then do not stop, but stop fighting me. Maya leaned forward, letting him see the determination in her eyes. You want to save the galaxy from the silence. So do I. You have knowledge and resources that could help. But if you try to control the Wanderer, if you try to control me, you will fail. The Forerunners did not leave their legacy to be hoarded by secret societies. They left it to be shared. Drake was silent for a long moment. In the background, Maya could see movement, other members of the Eternal Watch, reacting to their failed plan. You really believe you can unite the galaxy against the silence? He finally asked. I believe I have to try. And I believe that humans, all humans, deserve a chance to participate. Not just your chosen few. More silence. Then, slowly, Drake nodded. The coordinates I sent you lead to an Eternal Watch installation. One of our oldest. It contains records about the silence that the Forerunners never compiled. Observations made over 4,000 years of watching the void. If you truly want to prepare for what is coming, you will need that information. And the catch? No catch. No more threats. Just recognition that we are on the same side, even if our methods differ. Drake's expression softened slightly. You exceeded everything I hoped for when I trained you, Maya. Perhaps that is a lesson I needed to learn. Sometimes the best results come from plans we never made. The transmission ended. David moved to Maya's side as she slumped in the command chair, drained beyond words. Do you believe him? That there are no more tricks? No, Maya admitted. But I believe he wants the same thing I do. That will have to be enough for now. Through the Wanderer's sensors, she watched the fleet still maintaining their standoff, the galaxy still holding its breath. She had won one battle, but the war, both against the political forces that wanted to control her and the cosmic threat that lurked in the darkness, was only beginning. Set course for the Eternal Watch installation, she said. Let us find out what else we are up against. The Wanderer turned toward its new destination. Carrying humanity's hopes into the unknown, the Eternal Watch installation hung in the void between stars. A structure of impossible geometry that had been ancient when humanity's ancestors first walked upright. Maya guided the Wanderer toward it carefully, her bond with the ship translating its sensor data into intuitive understanding. Multiple life signs, David reported from the tactical station. Several hundred beings, mixed species. Some of them are old, Maya. Really old. The bioscanners are showing individuals who should not be alive by any normal measure. The Eternal Watch extends life through Forerunner technology, Maya said. She had learned this during the journey here, accessing files Drake had shared as a gesture of good faith. Their founders are still alive. They remember the first days of the Council, the wars that came before, the legends that became history. The installation opened to receive them, docking bays extending like welcoming arms. As the Wanderer settled into its berth, Maya felt something stir in the ship's systems. Recognition. This place was connected to Forerunner networks that predated the silence. It was a node in a web that had once spanned galaxies. Drake met them at the airlock, accompanied by beings whose species Maya could not identify. They moved with the careful grace of extreme age, their eyes holding the weight of centuries. Welcome to Archive Prime, Drake said. The oldest repository of knowledge about the silence that exists in this galaxy. What we show you here has never been shared with outsiders. Why share it now? Because you proved something when you disabled our devices. Drake led them through corridors that seemed to breathe with ancient power. The Wanderer chose you for a reason. The Forerunner's judgment was correct. If anyone can unite the galaxy against what is coming, it may be you. They entered a chamber filled with holographic displays, showing star maps that stretched across billions of years. Maya watched galaxies form and die, civilizations rise and fall, and through it all, a spreading darkness that consumed everything it touched. The silence is not a species, Drake explained. Not in any sense we understand. It is more like a fundamental force, a principle of existence that expresses itself through matter and energy. When it touches something, it does not destroy. It converts. It makes everything part of itself. The Forerunners thought it could be stopped, Maya said. They built the Wanderer to fight it. The Forerunners were wrong. One of the ancient beings stepped forward, its form shifting between states of matter as it spoke. They believed that sufficient technology, sufficient planning, could overcome the silence. They learned too late that the silence is not defeated by strength. It is defeated by change. Maya felt a chill run through her. What do you mean? The silence spreads by predicting behavior, by anticipating how civilizations will react and corrupting those reactions. The Forerunners were old, stable, predictable. Their patterns were easy to model, easy to subvert. But species that change faster than the silence can adapt, species that act in ways that cannot be predicted. Species like humanity, David finished. Yes, young species. Chaotic species. Species that have not yet settled into rigid patterns of thought and action. The ancient being turned to face Maya directly. This is why the Forerunners hid the Wanderer. Not because they believed technology would win the war, but because they hoped a younger species would find it and use it differently than they would have. Maya processed this, her connection to the Wanderer flooding her with confirming data. The Forerunners had not been confident in their plan. They had been desperate, throwing a message in a bottle across millennia in the hope that someone, somehow, would find a way to succeed where they had failed. The silence is stirring, she said. It was not a question. She could feel it through the Wanderer's sensors, a vast presence awakening in the darkness beyond the galaxy's edge. Yes, the activation signal you sent when you bonded with the ship was detected. The silence has been dormant for 70,000 years, but it never stops watching, never stops waiting. It knows the Forerunners left something behind. It will come to investigate. How long do we have? Drake consulted displays that showed energy patterns Maya could barely comprehend. At its current rate of awakening, perhaps 50 years before it begins actively spreading again. Perhaps less if it detects more Forerunner technology activating. 50 years. Less than a single human lifetime to prepare for a threat that had destroyed civilizations spanning galaxies. That is not enough time, David said. The Council barely agreed to give humanity voting rights, getting them to cooperate on a defense plan against something most of them do not believe exists. Then we do not ask them to believe, Maya said. Something was crystallizing in her mind, a plan forming from the chaos of information the Wanderer had given her. We show them. The Forerunners left 47 installations across the galaxy. Each one contains evidence of the silence, records of what it did, how it spread, why it was feared. We claim those installations. We share what they contain. We make the threat impossible to deny. That will take years, Drake objected. And every faction will fight you for control of those sites. Let them fight. Let them see what we are fighting for. Maya turned to face the ancient beings of the Eternal Watch. The Forerunners failed because they were alone. They had no one to help them, no one to share the burden. But we are not alone. There are thousands of species in this galaxy, and every single one of them will die if the silence wins. That is the message we bring them. Not humanity seeking power, but humanity offering partnership in survival. She felt the Wanderer respond to her determination, systems aligning with her intent. The ship had waited 70,000 years for someone who could think like this, who could see beyond the immediate crisis to the larger picture. You will need more than good intentions, Drake said. You will need allies, resources, military strength to back your diplomacy. I have the Wanderer. I have the hidden fleet that activated when I bonded. And I have something more important than any of that. Maya smiled grimly. I have the evidence of what happens when civilizations fail to work together. The Forerunners are gone. Their entire civilization wiped out because they could not adapt fast enough. I am going to make sure the galaxy understands that lesson." She turned to leave, David falling into step beside her. But at the threshold, she paused and looked back at Drake. "You spent 4,000 years preparing for this moment. Gathering knowledge, building networks, waiting. Now I am asking you to do something harder. I am asking you to trust someone else to lead." Drake held her gaze for a long moment. Then slowly he bowed his head. The Eternal Watch was created to preserve the possibility of victory against the silence. We never assumed we'd be the ones to achieve it. Led Maya Torres. We will follow. They returned to the Wanderer as urgent signals flooded in from across the galaxy. The Council demanding her presence. The Vraxians threatening military action. The Merchant Collective offering deals, alliances, partnerships. Everyone wanted a piece of the Forerunner legacy, but Maya was no longer afraid of them. She stood on the bridge of the most powerful ship in the galaxy, bonded to an intelligence that had waited 70,000 years for this moment. Behind her stood humans who believed in her vision. Ahead of her stretched a future full of danger, conflict, and the ever-present shadow of the silence. "Plot courses to the nearest Forerunner installation," she said. "Send messages to the Council, to the Vraxians, to everyone. Tell them that the Wanderer is claiming its heritage, and that anyone who wants to survive the coming darkness is welcome to join us." David raised an eyebrow. "You are inviting them to watch us?" "I am inviting them to learn. The Forerunners left their legacy for a reason. It was not meant to be hoarded or fought over. It was meant to save lives." Maya looked out at the stars. "We have 50 years to unite a galaxy that has never agreed on anything. We have to fight political systems, ancient prejudices, and the greed of species who would rather rule over ashes than share in survival." She smiled. And for the first time since this journey began, she felt something like hope. Good thing humans are known for achieving the impossible. Let us get to work. The Wanderer's engines ignited, carrying humanity's champion toward the first of many battles. In the darkness beyond the galaxy's edge, the silence stirred, sensing the challenge being raised against it. The war for the future had begun, and this time, a galaxy would not face it alone.